Nobody gonna take my car. I'm gonna race it to the ground. Nobody gonna beat my car. It's gonna break the speed of sound. Oh, it's a killing machine. It's got everything. Like a driving power, big fat tires, and everything. I love it, and I need it. I bleed it. Yeah, it's a wild hurricane. All right, hold tight. I'm a highway star. This is Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we're not the ones stumbling. We're not the ones that are turning around, not knowing where we are. We've got it pinpointed with laser accuracy.
Well, maybe you do, but I don't know.
I know where I'm going.
I'm spinning. I don't know.
I know where I'm going. And I know where the country's going, and that's
easy. That's hell in a handbasket.
Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping.
I'm going down with it, though. I'm just celebrating, just party time. We'll just. I'll go to heck. It's okay.
Whatever.
You know, Jay, the pessimism just never leaves me. So that's just.
And I, the eternal optimist, I just
sucks to be you.
Yeah, it's hard. I tell you what, it's hard in this day and age.
It's so easy to be negative. I used to be positive for a long time, but it's way less energy to just be negative all the time. I mean, I just feel so much better about myself.
Yeah. Well.
By the way, I might know that. Might know that.
Okay.
I want to say it's Deep Purple.
You might be right.
Okay.
Highway Star, Deep
I've
Purple.
heard that song before. All right.
Yeah. So classic rock pick for us today as we talk about
taking cars away.
Yeah.
We could do that on every show, to be honest with you.
Nobody going to take my car except for the state of Minnesota, I guess, and the federal government.
Try. I mean, we'll get into that in a sec, but just the backwards thinking, the statistics they claim, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute because I can't independently verify anything they say.
Right.
So once again, I mean, remember the old rule about government.
Mm-hmm.
The more they say something, the more emphatically they say it, the more likely it's a lie.
Right.
So I have to assume that what they're saying, they're guilty until proven innocent, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You know, kind of like the way the IRS used to work. I filed my taxes last week.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm just extra angry about my wife and I about our taxes.
Yeah,
so
I had to file mine too and make sure that I had enough cash sitting around for that.
You know, it's weird. You know, for so many years I had a checkbook, and it took me. I was one of the last people to stop writing checks, which nobody does anymore.
Right.
And memorize my routing number and put that on. Put that somewhere. But weird feeling. By the way, I want to say something really quick here. I have been in the process of somewhat divesting myself from big banks.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's really not easy. I think it's important.
Well, and also when it comes to investing money, because, you know, the status quo 401k stuff, because you retire, you'll get nailed on your taxes if all your money's sitting in a 401k.
Yeah.
But it is hard. You know, I get into my IRAs and it's like, well, what do I invest in? I don't want to invest in corporations. I don't want to invest in municipal bonds.
Right.
I've actually bought treasury bills before.
Yeah.
Because I like a section that's guaranteed money.
Yeah. You can invest in gold and silver as well.
I do that also. In fact, I just had some silver pieces delivered to my place.
Oh, that's good. Paper gold and silver is not the way to go.
No.
I mean, they can take that away like nothing.
No, those bullions are worth some money. And I fondled them for a few hours the other day. But it's very hard to avoid the big banks and the corporations completely. It's almost impossible. I don't want to say it's impossible. I still have money at Wells Fargo. I try as much as I can to make my credit union my main place, my independent credit union.
Yeah.
And I got to say, Wells Fargo made the news here on Channel 5. Now, can I just make a statement here that I want to know how Channel 5 reports this and takes it seriously at the same time. Because if I had a corporation tell me this, I'd laugh out loud so loud that, I mean, I'd love to take, you know what they ought to offer? In fact, they probably have it, knowing colleges today.
Yeah.
How to speak corporatese.
Ugh.
You know, you got a lot of you got a lot of types of English, Jay.
Right.
You got North Dakotian, you got Southern, you've got Boston, New York. You know, you've got Brooklynese, you've got different ways of speaking English.
Yeah.
Okay, and corporatese is...
It really takes all the joy out of speaking English.
It's like bad music when you listen to it. It's like think of the
like
worst
Muzak.
song. Yeah, think of the worst song that gets like stuck in your head throughout the day. You know, and that's corporatese to me.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo to consolidate corporate office space in the Twin Cities. So they are consolidating corporate office space.
Yes.
Wells Fargo is planning to leave some of its Twin Cities metro locations in an effort to consolidate its corporate office working spaces. This is KSTP.com. A company spokespersonette, Stacy Schillar, confirmed to 5 Eyewitness News that Wells Fargo plans to leave its home mortgage campus in South Minneapolis and its office space in St. Louis Park as employees start moving to one of 3 locations: the space in Shoreview, a campus off South 4th Street in downtown Minneapolis, which includes the Wells Fargo 550 Tower, or the Wells Fargo Center, also along 7th Street in Minneapolis. The company plans to sell its South Minneapolis building, located off East 26th Street. It leases the St. Louis Park space. That lease must be up.
Yeah.
According to Schiller, listen to that. I want you to listen to this. I want to know where Stacy Schiller. I want to know where you went to college. According to Schiller, the move for non-customer facing employees, whatever that means.
That's people who don't see a customer. So that's your business analysts, your project managers, your people that work in
the underwriters.
The underwriters, the compliance people. There's a billion jobs like that in a company like that. So
they will start soon to be finished by the middle of next year. Listen to this.
Okay.
Now, Jay, before I say this quote, we all know why this is happening. This is happening because they don't need office space, and the company can be more profitable if they consolidate this or have some people work from home.
Right.
They don't need this much office space. It has nothing to do with anything other than that.
Yep.
If they needed the office space, they would have it.
Right.
But you listen to Wells Fargo's spokespeople, boy, and this is the greatest thing that's happened, since the wheel was invented.
Right.
Listen to this. So here's this spokespersonette. Quote, "We believe bringing our employees together in fewer buildings will help create a more collaborative work environment that will provide them with access to new modern workspaces, technology, and amenities while building a stronger sense of community at work."
Oh, boy.
In a world where we text and email, we need to have a more modern workspaces and amenities. Amenities? Well, bigger coffee maker? While building a stronger sense of community. At least they didn't say diversity and inclusion. That statement could have been worse.
Well, it could have been worse. You're right.
If you got a problem with that, I recommend Windows 95. Okay, well, anyway, a message to company employees noted, quote, "There will be limited moves for some customer-facing employees, but they will continue to remain close to their customers," i.e. branch banks are not changing here.
Right.
So, I mean, just the silliness of why don't they just, here's the thing. This is where corporations lose and I've become so anti-corporate because they've so lost credibility, one, for working and partnering with government, getting special favors, and 2, for crap like this. What's wrong with just saying, you know what? We've realized we don't need so much building space, so much office space, and we're not cutting any people, but this person's going to work from home, and this person, blah, 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 and you can use a different business can come in here and use the office space because our lease is up. Why don't they just say that? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to look up. I thought Wells Fargo laid off a whole bunch of people recently. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to
I don't know that they did
but-
here, but I
Oh,
mean, they
yeah,
could. The company could have,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's what I thought. It said that it shed 10,000 employees across all its divisions in 2022.
I don't know. Is that like they don't need as many bank tellers now with ATMs, or
Yeah, it could be. I think a lot of that is probably corporate office type folk as well.
Could be.
I mean, I remember when I worked for a large company here in the city, as a financial company that shall go unnamed. They laid people off all the time, even in like I guess I can't say it was a better environment when I think about 2008 and what was going on. But it was better than this.
they all got
Not a
bailed
lot,
out,
but
so
yeah,
everybody should have kept their job.
yeah. But there were a lot of people that did lose their job. I was one of the, I guess, fortunate ones that, found a home in a different department. But a lot of things, where they're able to, they shift jobs overseas.
Sure.
And you have people from India or the Philippines answering phones, which, it's
a great experience for
harder
us
on those of us that call.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not those people's fault. It's the company's fault for putting them into jobs they can't do.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, so you've got that. You've got the people that stay home. It surprises me, though, that in an effort to save money, they're holding on to the downtown offices and not moving people out of there into other places.
The only thing I can think of is they either own the building or their lease is for X amount of time. They can't get out of it. I mean, it could be. I would tell you what, if I was in a suburb and told I had to go to downtown Minneapolis, man, I would. I'd be looking for another career pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'd be like, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Sorry. Ain't going down there.
Well, I think there's a lot of that. People don't want to go downtown.
Parking.
The crime now, walking around downtown in the middle of the day isn't even safe.
In Chicago.
But even from a standpoint of benefits and things like that, I mean, if you have people that are working downtown and you have thousands of employees that work across multiple buildings downtown, those employees are they have to pay a little bit for it, but it's a discounted rate, and the company pays some of it for Metro Transit passes. So they're paying extra money with that, not to mention, whether they own the building and they're paying taxes on downtown real estate or they're renting and
they're paying the taxes either way. Yeah. They're paying the taxes through their rent if they're renting.
Right.
Well, and here's the other thing too. I got an idea. You don't want to pay for Metro Transit passes? I got an idea. Pay your employees enough money so they can get a car and they don't have to drive transit.
Yeah.
And Wells Fargo's not broke. I mean, come on.
But parking downtown's really expensive too. It's most people aren't going to want to drive downtown and park.
They're choosing to have downtown buildings, so therefore they've got to pick the consequences with it. So, I mean, it's hard for me to feel sorry for them.
I don't feel sorry for them.
I just sit here and I just laugh at the corporate speak. Why don't you come out and just tell the truth?
Yeah.
Say, look, we don't want these buildings. We don't need them. We've decided to, whatever you call it, right size or whatever, again, the corporate talk is, and we don't need this and we don't need that. We don't want it anymore. Right. That's all you have to say. You don't have to release a statement with 8 lawyers going through it and communications people. You know what I do if I were in charge of a corporation? First thing I do is I take everybody in charge of media and communications and fire all of them.
Yeah.
I don't need spin doctors here, okay? This isn't a campaign. I don't need that. That's exactly what I don't need.
Right.
So just, gosh, the silliness that goes with that stuff. It's unreal to me. I just laughed at that, and it just confirms to me that I'm doing the right thing by as much as I can pulling money out of a big bank, and I can't completely do it. simply because my credit union just does not give me the access of, ATMs and things like that, that Wells Fargo does. There's not as many branches and blah, blah, blah. It's not that simple to pull money out of there.
Yeah.
But, oh my goodness, the second I can pull every nickel out of there and not invest in any corporation or anything, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Well, and I think it is. And I think banking locally is a good option. I think banking locally is a great option. When you think on with, bailouts for some, but then you've got like these banks that have been failing and they've been getting bought up and bailed out, not by the government, but by these big banks that own the Fed.
Yeah, it's become an oligopoly. It's 5 big banks dominating everything.
Right.
Just like almost every industry is becoming. It's becoming... And that's no choice. I mean, that's no choice for people. If their only choices are 3 or 4 big banks, that's the illusion of capitalism. It's not real capitalism. It's fake capitalism.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely it is. And you think about what's coming with the digital dollar, and the digital dollar is going to be administered by these banks that one option is they might be administered by these big banks that run the Fed. Otherwise, another thing that is being talked about is creating a Federal Reserve account for the average citizen, and then the Fed would put money into it, and the Fed would take money out of it, and then they would be able to monitor closely whether or not that is something that you should be buying, or and so it can get to a point of being based on credit, your social credit score, and all of that as well.
So how can they take money out of it and put money in it? If I've earned it,
no, it's not yours anymore. That's the thing. They don't like cash. I mean, because you can hold on to cash. They can't control that. They want to control it. There was recently an interview that was done with somebody that's for the European Union, who is I forget her title, but she's on the financial end of things with the European Union, and she actually ended up doing an interview with what she thought was Vladimir Zelensky, but it wasn't. It was AI. So it sounded just like him, had his mannerisms, all of it. And she basically came out and said that, with the digital currencies, what's going to be good about it is that they, as a government, will be able to watch, and that if somebody wants to spend $300 to $500 worth of, whatever their equivalent is, over there, they might let that go, but then once you start to spend more than that, they will be able to monitor that, and that's when you enter what they call the gray market, which is not quite the black market, right? They're legal goods, but they're,
buying too many naughty things.
Not even necessarily naughty things, but once you start spending more money than they want you to spend, that's when you begin to get tracked and monitored.
Well, they're already doing that, though. Remember the whole any transaction over $600?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
through any of the PayPal, Venmo type things, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're all linked to social media.
Starting
they're all
this
linked
year.
to Google. They're all linked to. Venmo and PayPal, aren't they the same parent company?
Yes.
So
yes, they are. There's other
linked.
ones, Cash App and whatever.
There's a handful, but again, it's another place where there's 3 or 4 companies that under different labels that do all this crap.
And they're all working with the government.
Yeah, God, it's terrible.
Yes.
It's just terrible.
Yes, it is.
Just shame on you people. Just shame on you people. There is no shame. That's just the thing. There is no shame.
That's
You
exactly
got a president of the
it.
United States who doesn't even understand it. It's beyond anything. I mean, this is the problem with divorcing monetary policy from fiscal policy. There is no mechanism, even if the government wanted to. If the big banks want to do something, how does the government stop them?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Fed is a separate entity
Yes.
from the government, they're not part of the government.
They are not. They are. The head of the Fed is selected by the President of the United States. But
Yes.
other than that, it is a separate entity owned by 5 large banks.
Yeah, who know no boundaries, know no borders.
Right.
Nothing like that. So
They control the money supply. They control the interest rates.
you think OPEC is a cartel? I mean, God, this is 100 times that. And I'll tell you, the bailouts made this worse because this is where small banks got eaten up by the big ones.
Right.
So it's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really scary. I mean, I hate to say that I'm afraid, but
Yeah.
it's hard not to be.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and we would, I think, do well to make sure that we're prepared, and whether that means having, some food stored up, some water stored up, some gold and silver, some, some different. I'm not talking about going all out Ted Kaczynski here, but I am talking about, you might want to have some candles laying around and some waterproof matches, or having them in a waterproof container. You might want to have, if you can get a generator, that's great. If you can't, like I say, candles, but also, in case it's winter, you might want to get some hand and foot warmers. You might, having different things like that is never a bad idea. And it's not about zombie apocalypse, but,
this is like Y2K over again.
No, but I mean, we've seen, what happens when the power goes out in the winter somewhere, or there's a blizzard and all the store shelves are barren, and so just being prepared for a little bit, for some of that stuff, I think is really smart, because, if we get caught in a position where all of a sudden the bottom falls out of the economy, you're going to want to be one of the people that has a little something that you can fall back on.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me just ask a quick question. If I'm sitting here with gold and silver and treasury bills and things like that, what do I do with those if the digital dollar comes? Do I have to turn them all in?
No. Well, treasury bills, I don't think.
Treasury bills, I'd have to redeem them.
Yeah, and they'd have to call them. If they call them, you'd have to turn them in. But as long as they let them sit out there to mature.
They don't want to pay that off. That'll mature forever.
Yeah, that'll mature.
They want the next generation to pay that off.
Yeah,
let generation W or whatever pay that off.
Yeah, so... as far as that goes, but what are you going to get? Because if we have a financial meltdown, we are moving to a digital dollar, and then I don't know what they'll do with those treasury bills. They may call those, because when they enact
how do you exchange it? How do you exchange a treasury bill? If they're still out there, we have a digital dollar.
Yeah,
you're almost forced to call them in, wipe the slate clean, and start over.
Right. Yeah. And they would have to pay out on those, but since they're printing everything anyway,
they make it up anyhow.
Yeah.
So it just makes them more worthless.
Right. Exactly. And I don't know what it would do to interest rates and stuff like that. So it's it just really depends on where you're buying things, and a lot of treasury bills. And that's where we ran into problems with some of these banks, is they bought treasury bills that were like at 2%, right? And then the interest rates have gone up since then to, now you can get treasury bills that are up around 5%, and all of a sudden these other treasury bills are underwater.
That's when I bought them.
Yeah.
Underwater on the bank's end.
No, on the people who bought them at 2%.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right? Because all of a sudden
1.88 2019.
Because you lose money if you cash them in early, if you don't hold on to them till maturity.
Yeah, 20 years.
Right. And so these people that bought them, and the corporations that bought them at 2%, all of a sudden are stuck in these treasury bills that are at 2%.
Well, they could have bought short-term ones. Yeah. That would have been much smarter, because after a year you can get out of them.
Right.
All right. Anyhow, we won't solve that.
No.
Just ugly. It's just all ugly. Everything's ugly. See, you got to be a pessimist, Jay.
Well,
You got to quit this optimism stuff, and I'll give you another reason to be a pessimist.
Okay.
How about the gold line? We ought to call this the pyrite line.
Yeah.
The pyrite line. Let's call it that. I just came up with that.
That's good. Maybe we could call it the quicksand line.
The gold line receiving tons of federal funding. Now, for those of you who have never heard of this is an all bus. Well, by the way, I want to say something straight out, Jay. This is a 10-mile line.
Yes.
Of buses.
Goes from St. Paul all the way out to like Woodbury or Hudson or
I think it's Woodbury. I don't think it goes.
They wanted to take it out to Hudson at some point. It might not in its initial stages go that far.
Yeah. What the hell are the cities in? Maplewood, I think, at Oakdale, I think, are a couple of them.
Yeah.
Of course, they have their fact sheet, which I call their propaganda sheet.
Yeah, I think St. Elmo's Fire is in on that. So.
Probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But why does it cost? Can we just ask a question? This is an all bus line. Why does it cost $500 million to build a 10-mile bus lane? So that's $50 million a mile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and keep in mind, I mean, that's what it is right now. Well, it's a bus line. They're not going to have to build a lot of, they're not going to be building track. It's not going to be like light rail where they say, oh, this is going to be $1 billion and it turns out to be $5 billion.
Yeah, but they are having to construct a lane for this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, I mean, this must include buying property.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that comes off the tax rolls.
Yep.
But this has secured all this federal money. I cannot believe how much money that the feds are kicking. $240 million in federal funding secured, quote unquote, for the Gold Line bus project. The funding is part of a $21 billion investment in public transportation nationwide. This is from Bring Me the News on April 11th. Now, Jay, let me stop right there. I just talked a minute ago about the backward thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They are still building this. Where are the growing areas of Minnesota right now? Okay, it is not Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Right.
It is not the first and second ring suburbs.
Right.
Yet this is where all this stuff is being built. So they're building it where people are not choosing to live.
Or work.
Because most people travel suburb to suburb to suburb. I mean, what percentage of people do you know work in Minneapolis or St. Paul? If you had to take a guess, it's just an off-the-wall guess. How many people do you know work in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
Not a lot, and
I know a handful.
Used to be a lot more.
Right.
Ever since COVID, it's way less. I know people that used to work in Minneapolis that don't anymore, or that have to go in 1 or 2 days a week. There's a lot fewer people that are going into the city.
Yeah, and it's definitely changed generationally. When I was a kid, my dad worked in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who lived around me worked in Minneapolis as well. It's almost gone, the amount of people. The only people I know who work in Minneapolis work for the government.
Yeah, well,
that's what it seems like.
I used to work down there for a while. And, from our previous story, we know Wells Fargo people still work down there.
Yeah, that's right. Some of them, we'll see how many actually go, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the restaurants and stuff have closed down there.
It's quite a few.
Which is weird. They have built a lot of high rises and places for people to live, and it's like younger people that are living down there.
Right, but the problem with that, Jay, is then they get married, they have families,
and they move out.
And they move out to Maple Grove, they move out to Plymouth, they move out to Anoka.
Living downtown is fun when you're 21 and you want to go out every night.
Yeah,
but when
it gets
you're
old quick.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, it's is that life cycle housing? Is that what we call life cycle housing?
I guess so, yeah.
Look, even 21-year-olds at some point are going to want to live downtown. It's expensive. It's difficult to move around.
Yeah.
You're limited where you can work. And I mean, it's just.
And you got to be really careful because, I mean, now downtown is full of mentally deranged
Downtown's full of
people that
worse
are.
than Detroit.
Is it worse than Detroit? I don't know if it is, but Detroit's pretty bad. It's definitely not worse than Chicago, New York, or LA. I'll tell you that. But it ain't too good.
But just again, the whole idea that we're going to go, that people in Woodbury are going to take this line to go work in St. Paul. If you don't work down in St. Paul, you have no reason to take this.
No, you're not going to take it if you work in Oakdale and you're going from Woodbury to Oakdale, or you're going from Oakdale to Woodbury. I would even argue
how about if you
might not be taking it from St. Paul to Woodbury, because the chances are that your job is not within 6 blocks of that bus stop or in
and
Woodbury or St. Paul.
Even if it were, if
Oakdale.
it's 10 below out, are you going to want to walk 6 blocks?
No.
You know, I mean, if you work a mile north or a mile south, you can't take this either.
Right.
But this is where the lack of foresight is amazing to me, because, you know, the amount of money that we spend on this stuff. The Gold Line will. This is from Governor Goofball.
Yeah.
The Gold Line will connect tens of thousands of Minnesotans to nearly 100,000 jobs, educational opportunities, friends, and family. Again, I got Facebook for that. Investments in transportation are investments in Minnesota's economy. No, this is not transportation.
Right.
That has become such a wide, abused word, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where just everything seems to fall under. But here's the price tag: $505 million. Ramsey and Washington counties have each pitched in $120 million apiece. The 12 bus rapid transit lines are expected to form a 165-mile network in the Twin Cities.
Oh, boy. Taking
me exactly nowhere I want to go.
Yep.
How about that? Taking me nowhere whatsoever that I want to go. There's a few other articles. Carol Levin has an article on it, where Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar were just. You'd think they had found the latest wrinkle cream the way they were celebrating. You know, it's just silly. I mean, investments in public transit make it easier for Minnesotans to get to school, work, and other destinations while reducing traffic congestion and pollution, Klobuchar said. Really, Amy, when was the last time you drove anywhere around here? I mean, seriously, you see congestion being reduced anywhere?
No, I'll tell you, when I was on the road last Friday, it was bad everywhere I went. I mean, granted, congestion was reduced when COVID was at its height. And I think to a degree, there are still times where it's, you know, because people are working from home more, that it's maybe a little reduced, but it has nothing to do with buses, has nothing to do with light rail, has everything to do with people not working outside of the home. You know,
I think another thing that has happened too, is some people are choosing. I know a few people where they chose not to go back to work.
Right.
Maybe one parent decided to stay in the home for a while.
Yeah.
And avoid daycare. You know, because daycare was spreading around things, and some people said, you know what, we're going to sacrifice that vacation or something, and we're going to leave a parent in the home. We're going to. Like you said, you're going to find a job where one of us can work from home, because schools were closing and opening, and it became such heck for a lot of people that I think that is what one of the results was. People reevaluated their own situation and just said, you know, it ain't worth having both of us gone all the time. And so people rethought that stuff. And so I think some of it's permanent. There's no doubt a percentage of it. I don't know what percent that is. But
I mean, I don't know how many people have one income homes anymore. I mean, with everything going on in society, but
I think
not people are working it differently.
Yeah, or one parent's working part-time. Maybe one parent will go back to work when the kids reach a certain age. I mean, there's a lot of different ways people can do that. But yeah, the Metro Gold Line fact sheet, Jay. Have you read the fact sheet?
No.
Because, of course, and this is, again, I have read this, and I can't independently confirm anything on here. Metro Transit claims that 4,400 jobs will be created by this bus line.
Okay.
Now, how does a bus line create jobs?
I don't know.
If you build it, they will, hey, there's a bus line here. I wasn't going to start a business along 94 there on the east side, but now they got a bus line. Well, now we're going to start. I'm going to start that
right
putt course that I was
the time is now.
Yeah, you got to strike now.
Maybe this is how it works. You hire 400 bus drivers, and you hire 300 people working behind the scenes at Metro Transit.
400?
I don't know. How many of them are
20, maybe.
How many of them are government jobs? That's what I'd like to know. All of them?
Probably. I can't think of any. I don't know how public transit creates jobs.
Yeah.
That's where the transit-oriented development is such nonsense, because it's all land that's subsidized. It's all the rail is losing money constantly. So it's just not possible that that's true.
Right.
Now, listen to this here. This is something this is one stat I really tried to independently verify, and I cannot do this. 14% of households within half a mile of the Gold Line do not have cars. 1 out of 7 households. Do you believe that?
Maybe in St. Paul. Yeah. Maybe in downtown St. Paul.
But how many are a half a mile from the Gold Line? Now, if you're talking North Minneapolis, I might believe that.
A lot of people have cars in North Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's true.
They do. I take
the
a drive
majority of them, but
if you dare take a drive through North Minneapolis, and you'll see cars on both sides of the road in the residential areas.
That's true.
It's.
So are they talking about apartments? I mean, what are they talking about here?
I don't know. That's the thing. And you'd never know with apartments, because older buildings you can tell, but newer buildings all mandate underground parking. So, yeah.
Well, you almost have to, though, in St. Paul. Where are you going to park?
Yeah. It makes sense.
But you're telling me that in Woodbury and in Oakdale, 1 out of 7 households.
Right.
Not people.
Yeah.
Households. So there's a family of 4.
Yeah.
Nobody has a car.
Yeah, not happening.
I don't believe. I would put that number at maybe 1 or 2% at the most, and that could be an old person. That could be a handicapped person. I mean,
Yeah, if you take into account assisted living facilities and things like that, that will drive that number a little bit.
And go on a bus and tell me how many assisted living people are riding that bus.
That's not a fair assessment, because with assisted living, a lot of times they're going to end up on Metro Mobility, not on a big old
Aunt Susie comes and gives them a ride somewhere.
Not on a big old depression machine.
Here's the other thing I don't get: 10 to 15 minutes in bus frequency. Now, if you look at all the stops that they have,
there's a lot.
I mean, I don't understand how this is a short ride anywhere. This is just me, but I mean, if you look at it, looks like they're stopping 10, 12 times.
Mounds, Earl, Etna, Hazel, and then out at Sunray Mall, Maplewood, Greenway, Hillmoat, Tamarack, Queens, Woodlane. Woodbury. So they're touching the very like northwest corner of Woodbury, a little more than Oakdale, where it's like one stop in southwest Oakdale. They've got one in Landfall, one in Maplewood. You know, I don't know.
It's silly.
I don't know.
Silly.
You know, and yeah, they're going to have ramps and they're going to have parking and whatever, but I don't know. I mean, as someone who has in the past, when I worked downtown, driven to a place to catch a bus from time to time, I don't know. You play these games. That's the thing. Like, I used to drive down to the park and ride on Louisiana and 394 sometimes because it was a 10-minute ride in and a 10-minute ride out. I'm like, get me in and out of downtown, then I can be in my car and be happy. Yeah. Although there were times when, you know, I took the bus from
Brooklyn Center?
No, here basically. Got on a bus and would go through Brooklyn Center and all North Minneapolis and whatever, or Northeast Minneapolis, but that's a much longer ride, you know. And
it's brutal.
Better bring a book, and
and remember, buses go east, west, and north, south. So if you want to go here to here to here, you could take 3 different buses.
You could.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep. And then there was a point in time where I took the Mike Opat Shrine to Waste up at 63rd and 81.
Oh, really?
You know, and that's a 20-minute ride from there. So it's...
Yeah, I would challenge that it's a lot faster.
It's not. It's not faster
even
at all.
Even if the bus has its own lane, if you're stopping every 3 times a mile, I don't really see how it...
Because when I drove downtown once in a while, you know, it was expensive. It was hard to do, but I was able to get down there 15, 20 minutes, depending on what time of day I was driving. And I knew where to go, where I could park that was, you know, 3 blocks, 4 blocks from my building, and it was no big deal, you know?
Well, here's the other thing, too. Listen to all the amenities being offered.
Yes.
Pay before you board, so the bus leaves the station faster. Well, we know that the old honor system hasn't worked too well with the Hiawatha line all that much. I don't think that's really very effective.
Frequent all-day service in both directions.
Oh, golly. Stations with enhanced amenities. Shelters will provide comfortable waiting space and a variety of amenities. Next trip, I don't know what that is. Real-time departure signs.
Yeah, Next Trip is just their system for telling when the next buses are leaving. And
maps, heat, and lighting. Hey, we're in the 20th century. Bike racks and enhanced security with cameras and emergency telephones. Even though everybody has a cell phone.
Yeah.
Specialized buses as well. Buses will be unique and recognizable with wider aisles, which you need for people who take the bus, and additional doors and folding seats to make room for wheelchairs and strollers. So keep that in mind, Jay, too.
Well, good.
Your wheelchair when you bring your scooter store or your hover round.
Right.
Here's the other thing. Access to 93,500 jobs within half a mile of Gold Line stations. Where do they get that number?
I don't know.
How do they know 93,500 jobs?
But here's the thing. Most of those people are not going to take that line.
Well, look,
you know, if there are that many, and most of those jobs are full.
Yeah, exactly. If I lived in White Bear Lake and worked in Woodbury, do I count as a job within half a mile of this? Well, I can't take this thing. Who's going to drive from White Bear Lake to St. Paul to ride the bus out to Woodbury?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a false number. It's such propaganda.
Exactly.
I mean, where is our media in this? Why don't they ever challenge any of the conclusions that come here? Where is the investigative reporting?
All those people are going to drive in from Stillwater so they can take the bus from Oakdale to to Woodbury.
I mean, and Jay, like
Yeah.
you said, there may be a handful of people who would stop at a park and ride occasionally, in the way you used to. There could be some of that. There's no way that justifies a $505 billion 10-mile bus. We already have buses that service this.
Right.
It's not like there's no buses on I-94 or on the entire East Metro. It's just sort of, golly.
Right. But here's the thing. They want to begin service in 2025. And they're looking to build like new bus-only bridges.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the plan.
Yes.
For sure.
And have routes that are bus-only. And it's going to kind of be a mess. Again, it's going to restrict traffic, making it harder for those that drive to use the existing road because you're taking real estate away.
Everything makes drive. The whole point is to make driving more of a pain in the arse.
Yes,
that's the whole point of this. They know that this is not going to do anything for congestion or any of that crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's all to make driving a pain in the arse. So, but I'll tell you what, this has been advocated by damn near everybody. Pretty much every city along this has supported this, some to varying degrees. Pretty much all of the politicians, left and right, have supported this. It doesn't seem to matter what party somebody's from, even though you hear rhetoric about that from one party, but you won't hear much action. And once again, that party continued to make rhetoric. Republican critics have previously spoken out against expanding public transportation, citing a drop in passengers and an increase in crime. Metro Transit reports an increase of 43% in ridership from 2021 to 2022. What a dumb stat.
Yeah.
That's because of the shutdowns.
I know. You never hear them quote that or bring that into the discussion.
But
it's
how
so
does Channel 11 print that?
intellectually dishonest.
145% jump in crime with narcotics and weapons.
Yeah.
So the weapons and narcotics are 3 times the ahead of the people. But why doesn't? How about your Channel 11? How about you do some reporting and find out what the truth really is?
Yeah.
But they don't.
No, they're never going to do that.
Republicans have done nothing but fund this and fund this and fund this and fund this. They've bonded for it. It is nonsense that Republicans are against public transit. They say one thing. It's the typical Republican two-step. Say one thing at a Tea Party meeting, say one thing when you're in front of a happy crowd, and when you go to St. Paul, you do the 100% opposite.
It's not even that. They let their leadership go into these meetings, create these omnibus bills, and then they just all vote for it. They don't even know what they're doing.
Well, but they know.
They don't know what's in the bill.
Here's what they do. The leadership goes into a meeting with 20 or so. Look, in the red areas, they allow those people to vote no.
Yeah.
We understand you 20 people, you have to vote no. But you other people that are in these purple districts or these lean red districts or whatever, you have to vote for this. You just have to. This is what we've negotiated, and we don't pass this, it's your seat. You want that position on that committee. You want money for your real. You want a primary challenger.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens. This is where the party brings down the hammer.
Yeah.
So, when you got people with the backbone of a pretzel, this is what happens. So,
yeah.
And it's been going on for a long, long time. This is nothing new.
Nope.
It isn't. So, unfortunately, we're stuck with this gold line stuff. And here's the other thing too, that I just, every time these people have predicted riderships and all this. They have never been right once.
Right.
And there's literally no accountability on this at all. If they're wrong about something, oh, well, oops.
Yeah.
Guess we were wrong. We're not going to close it down or anything. We're going to just keep doing it. We'll keep throwing good money after bad. This thing is permanent. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
It's going nowhere.
No, once you put this in, there's no taking it out. And it just costs more money for the maintenance and the upkeep on it.
And then, of course, we'll have to have electric buses at some point.
Yeah.
You know, that's the next thing.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's not good enough. You can't have those carbon emitting gas powered buses. You got to have the electric ones.
But you can have those coal powered chargers.
Right. Well, but that's already what they're doing. What's it called? The D line? Is it the D line that goes up into Brooklyn Center? That's bus rapid transit, and that's electric buses already.
I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you what, you better mind for some copper. You're not going to have any batteries in those electric.
I don't know.
Too many.
Did you hear they just closed the Walmart down in Brooklyn Center? The
I
new
did
one
hear
that they opened, 5 years ago or something?
I don't know.
10
It was not that. I'm sure they got a tax deal. I'm sure that's gone.
Oh, yeah. No, it's gone. Yeah, I think there was so much theft. That was the idea. Like, they closed down the Brookdale Mall because there was so much theft and gang activity and all of that. We'll have an outdoor mall. You know, that's the way to go. We'll have Walmart. We'll have all these businesses. It's the same problem. They haven't solved anything.
You know, and here's the thing. Brookdale used to be the coolest place to hang out. There was a time in the late 80s, early 90s when that was super cool to go to Brookdale.
Huh.
And it just went to hell. I mean, it went, I don't even know how or why, I don't know what happened to make that.
Well, because they didn't do anything to stop the riffraff. You know, a lot of malls' policy are, from a security perspective, don't engage, don't do anything. If there's a fight, you can break up a fight, but otherwise, don't stop shoplifters. Don't, you know.
Yeah, mall cop. They got mall cops.
Yeah.
They got RoboCops sitting there. They're unarmed. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, the mall bans guns. Well, criminals don't follow rules.
Yeah.
So you can ban guns all you want. All that does is make your mall like a school. It makes your mall a sitting duck.
Right. Well, and Maplewood is another one that is undergoing those same problems where they have people carrying out armloads of clothes from the department stores, and they have fights all the time because you have terrible elements from the community that are coming in and creating problems, you know, and the security doesn't do anything, and they're not allowed to do anything. And
well, why
the
have
rumor
security
is,
if they're not allowed to do anything?
I don't know. But the rumor is, you know, that's going to get sold and torn down anyway. So it's, yeah, I don't know.
Go mall cop.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They're all going to get turned down at some point because at some point people are going to stop going there.
Yeah. With the shootings at the Mall of America last year, and it's,
I don't see that place lasting much longer.
Let's hope.
I mean, yeah, you could firebomb it for all I care.
I have a rule. I don't go more than once a decade.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I went there.
Yeah.
Last time I went there was when I worked for Best Buy and we closed the store there.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what the reasoning was that they closed it. Their lease was up, but
Yeah.
I'm guessing theft had to be one reason. And maybe it's just not feasible to run that. Big box stores are on the decline. There could be a lot of reasons, but it just, man. Yeah, it's just another place that was the coolest place when it opened up. Mm-hmm. And it's just, like I said, I'm just the eternal pessimist. It's all just gone downhill. It's all going off a cliff, Jay.
Yeah, it kind of is, you know, and I think that unless people start to stand up and start to push back and say that they've had enough. You know, I don't understand.
Here's the problem,
it's
though.
Like,
here's the problem.
Yeah.
The people can do that. It's not up to the people.
No, not
it's
entirely.
These corporate
but
interests and these woke companies and its government. Their policies have helped along this problem. If you're not going to prosecute people based on color, if you're not going to enforce, if you're not going to arrest people who steal stuff, what happens then? They realize there's no consequences to stealing stuff.
Right. But some of these companies are willing participants, and some are caught in the middle because now, you know, they have to be aware of what their CEI score is, because if they get a bad CEI score, then all of a sudden that means that they're going to have trouble getting loans. They're going to have trouble doing business with other companies because you're not going to be allowed to do business with companies that have a worse CEI score than you have. And so you are putting yourself, if you take a stand, you're putting yourself in a position where you're not going to be allowed to do business anymore. So it's either lose money or don't be in business at all, which is really no choice. And so for some of these companies, you know, I don't know if you've been following it all, like what's been happening with Bud Light lately.
Unfortunately, I've gotten a little bit of it.
But they've lost $5 billion in revenue because they put this trans guy on their cans. This man that preens around prancing and pretending to be a woman. And just because he had 1 million followers on TikTok or whatever, well, you just lost $5 million in revenue because you got a bunch of bars and stuff, especially in the South, that refuse to even stock it now because it won't sell. John Rich had to take it out of his restaurant because he wants nothing to do with it. You know, the country singer from Big and Rich. I know Kid Rock took it out, shot it up on his property. So there is some backlash, and they do notice, because then Bud Light puts out this new commercial with the Clydesdales who were so American and all that, and we're just here.
But they're not renouncing what they did.
No, they didn't. And so
why
people are smart enough to see through that.
Why do companies feel like they have to take a stand on something?
Because the pressure is being put on them. If they don't, they won't be able to get funding, won't be able to do business with other companies.
Doesn't need funding from anybody. Why don't they
Probably not.
Anheuser-Busch has been in business for generations.
Almost every main beer comes out of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, I mean, especially outside of Minnesota and Wisconsin, I think people don't know. Budweiser is the king of beers.
Yeah.
It's not close. Now, because we live by Milwaukee and we get
Miller and
we get smaller brewers here in Minnesota, it's a little different. But I actually ordered a Honey Weiss one time when I was in I think it was either Utah or Colorado, and not Colorado because that's all Coors there, but
right.
I think it was maybe I was in California, and they looked at me, what the hell is that? And I'm like, oh, where am I? What do you got, Bud Light? Surprised me back in my beer drinking days. So I mean, but why can't Bud Light just make a good product? If they want to support trans or not take a stand on it or say, look, we're going to sell beer to anybody, no matter what the hell, we don't care. We're just selling beer, which is fine with me. Why don't they just do it? Why do they feel like they have to curry favor? Why does a monster corporation that has survived world wars and 20 presidents and feel like they have to kowtow to some woke movement?
We've talked about it. I mean, that this is what happens from the World Economic Forum. We've been talking about this for how long now, that this is coming, that these social credit scores are going to affect people's ability to even do business. Now, when you start to get these distributors pushing back, the small-time distributors in town by town by town. That's where you can actually make some progress, I think.
Yeah, it has to be individual, because if you get too many people in a room, they'll agree to do nothing.
Yeah. But when you have this pressure on these big companies, I mean, that is really at the crux of it. This is the way that the business world is going, and it's about being in with the in crowd. It's about being in with government. It's about doing these things because you want to have a good social credit score. If you, maybe in this instance, Budweiser's a bad example, or Anheuser-Busch, but let's say that you are a company that doesn't do your own shipping. I don't know who that would. I don't know. Office Depot. Do you have your own shipping, or do you hire a trucking company? I don't know. We'll just pretend for the sake of the argument. If you have a trucking company that has a better social credit score than you have as Office Depot, that company that trucks, the trucking company, won't do business with you, and you won't have a way to get your goods to market because it will bring down their social credit score to do business with you. And so this is where...
What do you mean when you say they won't be able?
Well, they'll be put in a bind because they're not going to be able to get the funding. They're not going to be able to do business with certain companies if they do business with a company that has a worse social credit score than them. And this is the way that things are going. We've been talking about this now for at least a couple years.
I still don't get why Bud Light feels like they have to put a transsexual on a can of beer. I mean, again, they want to take a stand or not take a stand or something, but to go out and actually unnecessarily do this, if anything, it's gotten them. It's worse for them now,
right?
Than better.
Oh yeah.
So if they would have supported transsexuals and privately and left the beer alone,
yeah,
okay, fine.
Most people wouldn't know
or care. I mean, or care. Why don't we just say that? Or care. Everybody drinks beer. Okay, fine. But to have to blanketly come out and do this, I can't understand what their board of directors or their shareholders, they had to know this was coming too.
They had to. Well, they put the decision in the hands of some 24-year-old marketing dope that doesn't know anything about the way the world works, but was taught in college. They had
nobody else in the company that...
I don't know.
Gussie Busch, where were you? I mean, you had nobody who sold beer for 50 years.
Yeah.
All their franchise owners are affected by this. I mean,
well, this is just further proof that millennials shouldn't be hired to do anything important. I don't know,
Jay. I want to get back to transit here for a minute. You think this is over?
Oh, no.
This is from the Star Tribune. This is a month ago, March 9th, 2023. Proposed 2024 federal budget includes funding for transit projects in Twin Cities and Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
Two big public transportation projects in the Twin Cities and Rochester are recommended for more than $74 million. In President Biden's fiscal 2024 budget, which would be the budget that starts this October.
Yeah.
Metro Transit's $97 million F line. I know what I could do with an F line. Call it the FU line. Bus Rapid Transit Project will connect Minneapolis to the Northtown Transit Center in Blaine.
And for those that don't know, that's up University Avenue. So that's going to be nice to throw a bunch of extra buses up on University Avenue, which isn't ever busy anyways, right?
Yeah. Biden's budget also includes $28.8 million for the Link Rapid Transit Project in downtown Rochester to help cover the project's total of $143 million. So the money that we sent to Washington and then they took out for administration and paper shredders and toilet paper and all that.
Yeah.
Then we get some of it back. The FTA announced the funding initiative on Thursday. The projects require matching funds from local governments. Hey, look at your property taxes to go up now for all that stuff.
Right.
But of course, it's orgasmic to these people, these government people. This is great news, said Nick Thompson, Metro Transit's Deputy General Manager for Capital Projects. He's not the general manager, he's the general manager in waiting here.
This is great news, says the guy that works for the agency that's putting this in.
Yeah.
Just ask them.
Yeah. When the arterial bus route service begins, ridership typically surges by 20 to 30%.
I challenge that. And if it does, that it's followed by a precipitous drop of about 20 to 40%.
Yeah, the Rochester BLT line, which is expected to run BRT, which is expected to begin service in 2026, will travel nearly 3 miles.
Oh, my word. They're building a bus rapid transit system for 3 miles?
Well, you got to go from one end of the Mayo Clinic to the other.
All right. Well, and that's what I was going to say. This is just a project to, for Mayo. This is a payout for Mayo.
Right,
That's all
to
it
the
is.
reps down there and all that. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Transit connects people to jobs, schools, loved ones, and more. Oh, wow. Haven't heard that before. What script were you reading that from?
Yeah.
For a guy totally unqualified for this job. Name one thing that qualifies Mr. Buttigieg to be the transportation secretary of this nation.
Nothing.
We're proud to deliver this funding to expanded transit across the country. Oh, my goodness. We will create good-paying construction jobs. No, they're already out there. They're building other stuff.
Yeah.
And provide better options for people to get where they need to go. Actually, you provide no options for people who need to go because they don't go there.
Right.
And I'd like to ask you, Mr. Buttigieg, what light rail do you take? Yeah, of course, none. You're an elitist. You don't do that. It's for us peons.
Right.
Not for the chosen one over there.
Yeah. So in this Rochester one, they're proposing a 13-acre transit-oriented development site that they want to call West Transit Village. Oh, doesn't that sound lovely?
Okay. No, I want to call it the West. So the people who are there, are they the West Transit Village people? Everybody does the YMCA.
Who's dressing as the Indian?
Mr. T.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just terrible. So yeah, it's just never ending. And I mean, we all know the planning, the blue line, Jay, around the northwest suburbs, the Northern Lights, the Red Rock. I mean, these things, they don't lay dormant for very long. They're always so.
Yeah.
So local governments have to match the funding. I just wonder what that means. If that's city, if that's county, or a combination of the two.
Yeah. Well, we know, just from the way that they have done the roads over here, cities and counties strong arm the cities into helping to pay for these things.
Well, it's coming from taxpayers no matter what. I mean, ultimately, whatever pocket it's taken out of, it really doesn't matter that much.
Right.
But what's amazing is how, and I'm telling you, this is incredible. No one in government speaks out on this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Republicans do it, of course, when they're in the minority. When they're always great at being in the minority, and but there's plenty of Republicans who've supported this. Independents have supported this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's another one of those things where the elites in the country are pushing it and no one really wants it. I mean, go to the Star Tribune and read the comments. This is not supported by people who are reading this stuff. So who are the people that support this and why does this continue to happen?
Well, because it's what they want to do. That's why. You missed something in the article that I thought was worth bringing out
I
as well.
never miss anything worth.
The FTA is also recommending that Metro Transit's $2.7 billion Southwest Light Rail line get an advance of nearly $292 million. But that amount is part of its previously announced federal funding of $929 million, not new money. Now, they're getting an advance. Is that something they have to pay back if it's an advance?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
It's just not coming when, they said it would. I don't think so. I don't think that would have some.
So the Met Council must unearth up to $260 million more to finish the 14.5-mile line linking downtown Minneapolis and Eden Prairie. The project is about 70% complete, and passenger service is slated to start in 2027. Yeah, right. Nearly 10 years behind schedule and double its original budget.
So, wow. So it's still 4 more years before it's operational. Well, they're going to get that funding this year. I mean, no doubt about it.
It's not going to be ready in 4 years. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh.
I wouldn't. If I drove by it, I would probably drive right into it and Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
myself.
you should see this thing. I mean, the bridges they've built, so it's up high sometimes, and then they want to put it underneath a river, right? At some point, and it's
underneath a river.
Or there were some tunnels they were building. What was that for? So part of it's under tunnel or in tunnels. Part of it's up in the sky on a bridge. It is the most.
So it's a subway. It's
wasteful.
a subway
and an L train all in one. Yes.
Well, so much for that big audit that we were supposed to have on that.
Yeah.
That was the big solution. Now let's go audit it. Okay, government wastes money. What's the news there? I mean, didn't stop anything. So what's the point of doing that?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's. I don't know.
And I'd like to know, has anything been done to address the crime on these things and the mall cops we have that are on it? I mean, if we're not going to do anything, look, here's the thing: if these things aren't safe to ride, no one's riding them. I mean, I don't care. You could the whole "if you build it, they will come" just does not apply here in my book.
No. Well, I mean, look at North Star. How empty that is.
North Star is a total joke.
And you look at...
and they wanted to put that all the way to St. Paul. They still do.
I saw articles today about the Green Line in St. Paul. They already have light rail in St. Paul. Ridership is down. They're cutting... they're cutting trips.
Yeah, and just think all the propaganda about this. But I've said this before. The unhappiest people in the world take transit. And the minute they can get off, I'm telling you, the minute you can stop taking transit, very few people take it by choice.
Yeah.
Very few, if any. I don't quite believe that. If you are, you're going through a phase. Okay? Very few people do that by choice. Almost nobody. And the second they can get off that damn bus and have their own car and their own freedom, they do it.
Yeah.
Now, there's exceptions to that.
Right.
Like cities like New York and things like that, where it's just a very different atmosphere out there.
Or the people that ride their bus to the bike, or they ride their bike to the bus stop, get on the bus, and then take their bike off downtown like they biked the whole way. Yeah.
That'd be me if I was ever in a race. That's what I'd cheat. I'd cheat.
You'd lose if you got on the bus.
Huh?
You'd lose if you got on the bus.
I'd be faster doing anything, but riding on the bus, just a little rest period.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not slowing down. I mean, nothing. My question is this: what will slow this down? If there's the ridership is never what they say, the costs are always more than they say.
Yeah.
And yet they plow ahead like there's and they all read the same line.
Yeah.
We're going to connect people to jobs. We're going to connect loved ones to other loved ones. And it's like, God, how much longer can they say that?
Yeah, well, nobody challenges them, so why do they need to say anything different?
They're just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the whole light rails for somebody else to take.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to connect you to jobs, but we're not going to do it.
Right.
You know, how about all the CEOs that are writing out those passes for? You think they take the bus downtown? I mean, come on, it's just
They get paid for parking spots underneath their building.
that's right. They pull up their Lexus or their
Yeah.
Mercedes, the buses and the transit. They're all for us peons, for
Right.
all of us to take.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what, Jay, if you're ever feeling down in the dumps, just take a bus. It's like watching Al Bundy. You'll feel much better about yourself because at least you ain't that person or that person or that person. Because it's just hell on earth to take a bus.
Ugh.
Just the unhappiest people on earth are sitting on a bus. Just trust me.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So yeah, I mean the gold line. So you people out and then the construction nightmares this will cause too.
Yeah.
You're in for 2 years of it.
Yep.
Why does it take 2 years? You know why does it take so long?
Well, they set unrealistic goals for one, and that's why the time comes in at 10 years over time and twice the budget because the planners are terrible.
Well, that's how they sell it, though.
Right.
They sell it by giving you blinds of BS that they know are BS.
Once you've already spent money on it, we can't turn back now. We spend money on it.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep going with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I have taken light rail once, I think, in my life. I was in Colorado. And I have never taken a subway before.
I took, was it the rail or subway? I don't remember what it is in Washington, D.C. And I took the subway in Paris. That's kind of necessary there. I
Yeah,
guess.
well, it's like New York.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Paris?
I was there during high school with a group of students. I stayed with a family for about 10 days, or not 10 days. I stayed with a family the first half of it, and then I was in Paris.
Really?
For part of
you
it,
take
yeah.
Les Français in high school?
I did, yeah. Je parle un petit peu de français maintenant. It's just,
Exactly.
oui.
I have no idea what you said there, but I took Spanish in high school, and I took just like I said on both my show and this show. I've said I took enough to know when I was in Tijuana, and I was in the bathroom, I could hear two people talk about killing somebody.
Oh boy!
And so I knew just enough that I had to hold it.
Oh boy!
For about 30 seconds before they left.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about offing somebody.
Oh boy!
It was pretty bad, man. Somebody was sick of escuchoing to somebody's obloing, and that was I could make out that, and I was like, okay, I don't think they know I'm in here. Tijuana's a rough place, though.
So I've heard.
It's that this was like 16, 17, like 2004 or 5. I was there.
Yeah.
So it was 4. It was during the Republican convention because that was when I hurt my back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't remember a Republican convention being in Tijuana.
No, it was on. I was laid up.
Yeah.
And I couldn't work. So, coincidentally, that was on. It was a total coincidence. And so I watched it for like 2 nights. Remember, my hotel room had a recliner in it. And that was the only time I was comfortable. I couldn't lay on a bed. My disc had bulged out very, very low by my spinal cord, and I couldn't, or by my tailbone.
Yeah.
I remember the only time I was coming, I had to sleep like in a recliner with my feet up. And that was the only time I wasn't in pain. Because you weren't going to douse me with that medication crap. I don't take that stuff. So it's like, what can I do? I'm like, well, you're going to have to stay off it for a week. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Best Buy paid for me to sit in a hotel room for a week.
Well, that's good.
F them.
Yeah.
I took their money and ran.
I used to think the only thing that I really had to learn in French was I surrender, but as I met people from and befriended people from Democratic Republic of Congo, it was yeah, I wasn't half as good as I thought I was at French. We'll say that.
Well, Jay, there's an old rule to.
Yeah.
It is one thing to learn a language on paper. It's another thing to say it in conversation.
Right.
So two very different things. Like I can remember Spanish exchange students coming into our classes when I was at Cooper, and they would say something in Spanish. I'm like, hey, can you write that down? Write that down, and maybe I'll understand it. And if they wrote it down, I could make it out. But if they said it very fast and very with their accent, it was like, that's all I heard.
Yeah.
But if it was like if I read Spanish, I could make it out what a lot of people were saying.
Right.
But having it in conversation, two totally different. And one thing too about other languages is that just like English, there's a different way they pronounce words in Mexico and in Spain, just like in North Dakota and the rest of the country or wherever. There's different ways they say things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
it's kind of the same too. Where France, Quebec, and then like in Africa, it's all different.
Yeah,
I mean, not totally.
I told a
but,
Spanish guy one time that I was just chilling.
Yeah,
and he looked at me like, "Huh?" Like, oh, yeah, and I had to step back. No, I'm not cold. He didn't get the slang. Slang, I guess that's the best.
Yeah, language is confusing, and it's weird. We think, when we think of some of these countries and, we think of how strong America's been and stuff like that. But you talk to somebody, say, from Democratic Republic of Congo, and they speak French. They speak their native language, their native African language. They speak probably Swahili, and they might speak English on top of it. And so they speak 4 or 5 languages well, or pretty well. And
it's incredible how many other languages, how many people are bilingual outside of the United States. I'll tell you, even Canada, you want to live in Canada? Well, you better know some French because, I mean, it's like Quebec and Montreal are a different world from Winnipeg, and I mean, you got to know some of it. So it's
you got to know how to say your prime minister is a Marxist in more than one language.
I mean, in fact, you could say that in many languages. Marxist should be a term that we all know just universally.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible. All right. Well, look. Green line stuff, again, we're sorry, folks, for bringing the bad news.
Or gold line.
Yeah, whatever. Green line to gold line. Pyrite line.
All of it.
Yeah. Calling it the pyrite line. So if you're traveling that way, look for the construction to be in your way. Look for, if you're going from St. Paul to Woodbury, you better get on board, better get on that bus.
Yeah.
I mean.
True.
Your tax dollars at work, folks.
Yes, indeed. And I guess if you're going to St. Elmo's Fire or Stillwater or any of that stuff,
is St. Elmo right?
You're just out.
Is that right there on that? I get confused.
It's a little past Woodbury.
Okay,
I think.
So that might be not within the half a mile.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so it's what Afton is. What's that? The last town before Stillwater, or what? I don't.
I think so.
Landfall, I think, is another city out that way.
Yeah, that's out that way. That's actually part of the Gold Line.
Oh, okay. So that must not be as far out as
it's like St. Paul, Maplewood, Landfall, Oakdale, Woodbury.
Woodbury South, Oakdale's North. Yeah. Just silly.
Yeah.
Just I don't know. I'm just. Nothing's going to stop this stuff, folks. The train's just, I mean, nobody in local government will stop it. Nobody in county government or state sure as hell won't.
No, they're all on board.
When I'm governor, this will be passed over my veto. I know that. I'm going to line item it if I can. That's my promise to everybody once again that I am going to, in fact, like I always say, Jay, these omnibus bills, you send me these omnibus bills, boy, I'd love to veto the whole thing.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do just to piss people off is line item it. I'll put like 300 vetoes in one bill. Because I'm going to accept, you know how these bills are. Mm-hmm. There's a handful of things you like and most of it you don't.
Yeah.
I'll keep the 20%.
You're better than me. I would just veto the whole thing and say send it to me separately.
I wouldn't do that because number one, they're not going to send it to me separately.
Right.
They'll override me.
Doesn't need to pass.
Yeah, but the good stuff can. If I can find, look, Jay, I'm telling you, if I can find 10%, 20% that I can do and take credit for and show people this and that, I'm going to do it. If you veto the whole thing, you're going to end up getting nothing that you want probably, and I can't have that. So, again, say what you want. That's what I'm going to do starting in January of 2027.
Okay.
So, now, if that doesn't depress you, Jay, why don't you attempt to lighten the humanly possible. Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling dealing, son of a gun. Jay, please give us just anything. Anything. Throw us a bone here.
Yeah, I don't know if I got it in me today.
Hey, you're on my side now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at everything that we're facing as a nation, and I don't even understand how we're here. Is it just that people don't have a backbone anymore, or is it that people actually believe this stuff? And I don't really believe that. I don't think that, all of a sudden Americans have changed their mind and they don't really know what a man or a woman is, and that that kind of confusion is okay. No, I'm just not sold that the average person is into this stuff. But yet, here we are, and we find ourselves facing this uphill battle, and whether it is in the woke agenda, whether it's in our financial woes, whether it is in transportation and transit, whether it is in housing. There are so many different issues that we face. And the only way that we are able to make something out of that, the only way that we are able to push forward and to give ourselves a shot against these mobs, and it's mob justice. If you've ever seen any of this, which is really no justice at all, it's injustice, but it's based on the whims of society, right? And if you have mobs of multiple people that decide that, no, we're not going to pay for things. No, we deserve to have this or that, or to be able to do this or that because of our position, whether we were cared for or not cared for, or the haves or the have-nots. We sit and fight against this, and everything seems to just be hitting these points where we don't agree, but we're not standing up, and so these things pass, and then we're angry about it, and we don't do anything about it, and then it just kind of comes around again, you know. So it really comes down to, what are we willing to do? What are we willing to sacrifice? What are we willing to say that can change all of the things that the enemy of liberty has planned out for us. You know, we've had this festering for decades in our government, in our schools and universities, in our entertainment, in our media. It's just been building and building and building and building. And it's become hard for people to hold on. But it's because they allow these things to happen. That has to end. If we're going to be serious about this, if we're going to stay put and we're going to hold our ground and we're going to do whatever it is that is going to change the trajectory that we're on, then we need to step forward and we need to do that. Because if we don't, then we're just giving up. I mean, that's really the option that we're at, you know. We have the option to fight. We have the option to give up, and I don't see how we win if that's the way that we go. So we have to fight. We have to stand. We have to resist. And so we ask you to come into the fight. We ask you to watch what's going on around you, to report on it, to bring together those that need to see you at work within them. See you at work in your city, see you at work in your county, see you at work in your schools, in your businesses. We can do this. But it takes each of us standing up in that area that we've been given to guard, to protect, to do our best in. And we can do it. But it's going to take a little bit more than we're given right now. It's going to take a little bit more of that stand that we need to take. It's going to take a little bit more investment and money and time. And we've let things go for so long. But things are not lost. All hope is not lost. Oh, goodness. Minnesota, we got some work ahead of us. But you know what? I believe in you guys. And I know that if you come and you join us, we can win. We can still win this thing. And so I just thank you ahead of time for all of the things that are ahead of us. And we know that you're going to partner with us, and that we can't do this alone, and we know that you can't do this alone. But that's where, by coming together, we have got ourselves the ability to make a change. So we put our trust in you, Minnesota, because we can do this. We can. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease and belief. You can get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That is commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We're here to help. Let's do this together. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn.